A few years ago, there was an advertising campaign by MasterCard. I call it the priceless campaign. One commercial begins with this young girl eating a bowl of Cheerios, and the voice says, $28 for new sneakers for when she gets a college scholarship in track and field. $40 for the globe so she can learn the countries by the time she becomes president. And as the camera closes in on the little girl drinking now her milk from her cereal bowl and it spills all over her clothes, the voice says, remembering to take life one day at a time. Priceless. Priceless. How do we know when an experience or purchase or even ourselves is worth it? In other words, how do we measure our worth? Every day we make decisions about whether something is worth it. Is the price of those Hamilton tickets worth it? I have yet to have someone say they weren't worth it. Was it worth it to pay to get an upgrade to first class or business class? What's the threshold of worth? How much are you willing to pay? And then I wonder how this translates to our self-worth. How do you measure your self-worth? In an article in Psychology Today, Amy Morin, a psychotherapist, explains that we constantly measure our worth, but we're often not aware of how we do it. Sometimes it's by our careers, our appearance, other times by our relationship. She compares this method to measuring our height with the random stick, the to-do list, the job, how many friends we have on Facebook, our appearance, other people. I wonder how that Roman centurion in today's passage from Luke measured his self-worth. Jesus is finished giving Luke's version of the Beatitudes, not from the Mount, but from a level place, and he's headed back into Capernaum, where there's always a lot of action in Luke's community in late first century day of this Gospels Friday, and our day as well. When Jesus goes into Capernaum, we have a clue that there might be healing coming along. Because previously in Capernaum, Jesus has healed a man of an unclean spirit. He's healed Simon Peter's mother-in-law. He's healed the paralytic man lowered by friends through the room to reach Jesus. So I guess we can say that this fishing village of Capernaum is kind of the hub of Jesus' public ministry. Sure enough, we have a healing story, but I'm not sure that the healing is the main point of this story. In fact, did you notice it's sort of a tagline at the end of the story? When the servants went back, they found the servant up and well. Not dramatic, he's just up and well. So what is this story about? Well, it begins where we learn that a valued servant of the centurion was ill and about to die. As a government official in Capernaum, he had heard about, the centurion had heard about Jesus. He sent some Jewish elders to ask Jesus to come and heal the centurion. And as one translation says, they earnestly plead with Jesus, saying he deserves this healing. And as we heard in the NRSV translation, it says that the centurion is worthy of receiving this healing for his servant. So Jesus listens and he decides, well, I'll go. But before Jesus arrives, the centurion seems to change his mind and sends other people to stop Jesus from coming. Not to stop the healing, mind you, but the centurion does not want to have Jesus even meet him. It's like the self-worth measuring stick was pulled from the closet, and the centurion, knowing what type of person he believes he is, decides he's really not worthy of this visit from Jesus. Now remember, the centurion is Roman. He's an oppressor. He gives commands, and he thinks he isn't viewed very well. I can see the internal conversation, because I think we've all had it with ourselves. I love my servant, but darn it, I'm a Roman. People hate me. I don't deserve this at all. Okay, I've got to stop Jesus from coming. Hurry, friends, go and tell him not to come and visit. What is he going to think when he meets me anyway? I'm just not worthy. story takes a turn. He understands and respects Jesus' authority. He knows what it's like to be in command, and Jesus is quite amazed, so amazed that he declares the man's faith unique in all of his ministry so far. And then we find out that, well, the servant has been healed. Here the centurion doesn't find himself worthy, and yet the Jewish elders did. And that's why they agreed to go speak to Jesus in the first place. You see, this Roman centurion, he's actually quite complex. He's a Roman centurion and a man who does good for those in his community. He's part of a force occupying and oppressing Israel, and he builds synagogues for the townspeople under his authority. So while it is clear the elders could see the man's worth, he couldn't see his own self-worth. And I wonder if that is something that you and I struggle with as well. I know I have, and to some extent at times still do, and I wonder where that comes from. We are our own worst enemy, aren't we sometimes? We cling to something that someone told us from our childhood, and we just can't shake it. We aren't a good writer. We're too fat, we're too thin, we're too stupid, we're this, we're that, we're not this, we're not that. The list goes on. And it crops up at the weirdest times. And it affects our self-worth. And a recurring theme that many in the church have heard for years, well, you aren't worthy of God's love. That our sinfulness is so significant that we can never do enough good deeds to outweigh our inherent unworthiness. And the argument goes that the only way of redemption is through God's grace, a love and forgiveness which people really don't deserve, but that they get anyway through God's overwhelming love through the life and death and resurrection of Jesus. There are a lot of people out there who have that message over and over and over again. We aren't worthy. According to Rabbi David Ostrich, the Jewish equivalent is that God knows about our imperfect nature, forgiving us when we sincerely repent, and working with us in making better decisions. What if we turned that upside down? What if we believe that we are worthy of God's love through Jesus? Remember, God so loved the world. It doesn't mean that we're not simple beings. We do things every day which separate us from God's desire for our lives. And yet, there is God in every moment luring us to the best possibility for our lives, never giving up on us. And I don't want us to get arrogant about our worthiness in terms of self-righteousness, but I do believe that there is a balance. Because when we have self-worth, or when we are able to love ourselves, are we not then able to live Jesus' command that we are to love our neighbor as ourselves? The centurion didn't feel worthy of having Jesus lay eyes on him. And yet it was the elders who had to tell Jesus that he was worthy. Jesus doesn't have to say the man is worthy. Instead, Jesus marvels at the man's faith. There's no question of whether he's worthy or not. He is worthy. So I did some crowdsourcing this week on Facebook. I asked some friends to fill in the blank. I am worthy because ... Here are some of the answers. Why not? I am what I am. I am a child of God. God says that I am. I was created in God's image. I am fearfully and wonderfully made. I can do hard things. I am loved and love others. One friend responded, I am worthy because I am a hot mess. Yet still I try, day after day, to love and be loved, to do the right thing, be a disciple, be a leader, follow my face, wake up, and start again. And maybe that's what we do most days. We try day after day to love and be loved, to do the right thing. And we will fall on our face, but we get to wake up and start again. Why? Because somehow deep down we do know that God loves us no matter what. And isn't that good news to share with others? It's been so long since I've been to church camp, but when I was a counselor at church camp way back in my days in Indiana, we would have a string and we'd put brown lunch bags up. And we'd call these affirmation bags. So, the kids were supposed to write little affirmations to the other kids, and the counselors made sure that the empty bags had something in them. We'd write little affirmations and they make sure that kids knew that they were worthy and that they knew that God loved them. Who do you know that may be on the outside looking in? Who needs a word of encouragement, a word of worth? I invite you this week to reach out to someone or someone's, letting them know they're worthy. If you're tech savvy, I invite you to, this week at some point, maybe in this afternoon, text 10 of your friends with a simple text, "You are worthy." The centurion, you see, had second thoughts and didn't feel worthy of a visit from Jesus. And Jesus still marveled at his faith. When you get down, when self-doubts get in your way, when you begin to beat yourself up for not being good enough, or whatever the reason is, remember that you are precious in God's sight. And that, my